We'll move to the final industry sector that we're going to discuss today before the panel discussion. And you know, through all of this, we'd be in a sorry state if we weren't still making stuff. Looking at what Jurgen has here on his CV, if there's one thing cooler than trucks, it's submarines. So Jurgen is he's the chair of the Victorian Defence Alliance, Submarines and Committee member for Regional Development Australia in Melbourne. And up until a couple of years ago in 2017, Jurgen was with Siemens, where he held a number of roles: the head of market development in the Pacific, member of the executive committee, head of the executive relations program for key accounts, head of Fortune 100 companies engagement in China and South Korea, and executive sponsor for the marine defence portfolio. Jurgen previously managed and performed strategic business development roles for several divisions within Siemens, with positions of Executive Vice President of Industrial Solutions, Industrial Automation, Power Generation, Power Transmission and Distribution, and Transport Solutions. He's got extensive multinational business and government relations experience. I won't even rattle off all the countries he's worked in and supported. There's over a dozen there Jurgen's been in. You must have the highest number of frequent flyer points of anyone on the call today, Jurgen. I hope you get a chance to actually use them. But really looking forward to hearing you talk about the manufacturing sector. So I'm pleased to introduce Jurgen Schneider.
Thanks very much. Can you hear me? All good?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, look, the ones who really enjoy the frequent flyer points are my kids. They love it. But having retired from Siemens, I was going to be a very active flaneur, but that's been somewhat impacted by not being able to fly anywhere. Anyway, such is life. Can you give us the first slide, please? Look, I thought I might start with some sobering thoughts as to where we all think we are. And this was just a recent Fortune 500 survey, CEO survey out of the US, with some startling, I think, answers to some questions. You know, when will economic activity return to pre-pandemic level? 52% of the CEOs said first quarter 2022. So we still have some time to go before we're out of the current sort of quagmire. Startling, when will 90% of your workforce return? And quite a significant number, 20% said never. So there will be some permanent shifts, changes, and so on. The crisis effect on technology transformation, we've heard that in different sectors before. 75%, of course, have said there's a real acceleration in technology adoption, digitalization, and everything from homework to manufacturing processes. The sad part, business travel, 52% said it'll never return to pre-pandemic levels. We're all getting used to remote work, work from home, even though business is very much a personal engagement issue. So that's some of the baseline thinking. If you can switch to the next one, please. We're not alone, of course. There's all sorts of work sorts already being done where dislocation of workforces in Europe because of A, Brexit, B, pandemic, travel restrictions is having an enormous effect if you're a multi-location company or you source skills from multi-sectors. One of the interesting ones is Germany, of course, has a very strong SME manufacturing sector, which is roughly in the 30% of GDP, which is, of course, also hugely impacted. If And they've taken a recent straw poll amongst a significant membership base. If you can go to the next slide, please, and look at the results. There are some obvious ones. You know, are you forced to digitalise business processes? Not willingly, but forced. 50%, of course, said yes. Which process is most important for your business? Obvious: home office, project management, online marketing. 28% was customer relationship management, because you can't physically visit your customer anymore. You now need to use technology, social media platforms to engage and hold your customer. Startling, though, I think, was barriers to digitalisation in the business. 63% said missing know-how. And I was reflecting before at previous speakers when they were talking about education, job skills, ready for job skills. This has become a front of mind issue now for everyone. 30% funding, 70 to 30% time, 20% skills. So the whole relationship between industry, academia, job ready, STEM skills is forced to the forefront. Next slide. If I go Victorian Defence Alliance, I'll give you some stats of who we are and what they do in a minute. But the experience we've had for the companies that are part of Defence Alliance is actually the benefit of an alliance we have with Swinburne University and the Innovative Manufacturing CRC. They have a program called Future Map, which is a free, I think it's about a three-hour, half-day program. And companies, preferably senior people, CEO, general manager, someone like that, participates, and you can map out and end up with a bit of a spider diagram of where you think your company is in 5, 7, about 10 criteria to give you some statistical insight that says, I'm reasonably good on that, but I really need to focus on this. And how do I focus on it? The advantage of doing it with Swinburne and IMCRC is, to date, they've already done this with 530 plus manufacturers. Bear in mind, they also do other sectors. They've done academia, they've done logistics companies, so it's not just manufacturing. Their mix, you can see there, is 90% SMEs, smaller than 20 people, medium, less than 200. So these are the companies at the moment which are impacted, struggling, trying to pivot, move from making one product to making masks, and so on. 200 of them are in Victoria, and out of those 200, 90% are also SMEs. So that's a tool, a statistical tool that helps you draw a baseline for your company, and at the same time look at what could I do to take me on this digitalisation road journey. Next slide, please. Just to give you a bit of an insight, the Victorian Defence Alliance is something that the Victorian government sponsors. We have in total some 600 member companies. 15% are regional Victorian companies, and 400 of them are specifically interested in the submarines. VDA is divided into a number of sectors you can see there: aerospace, digital, land systems, maritime, and submarines. And of course, quite a few of the membership companies are multiple members. They may well be in marine and submarine, or they may well be in maritime and land systems, or digital and aerospace, because they overlap. The main thrust of the activities: how do we support, guide, collaborate, any number of activities to help these companies gain entry into the global supply chains of the prime companies who are building these things. Submarines is a French company, naval group, setting up into Australia, but they have global supply chains that you need to participate in. The companies that are members are a variation from very experienced, they've done it all before, many years, to startups who are looking at application of latest technology, latest steps in manufacturing. So it varies to aspirants who, I've maybe lost my market because the industry I'm in has disappeared on me, like automotive. So now I have to look at somewhere totally different. It also includes academia because, as you saw earlier, there's a whole mix of learning skills, new technologies, digital processes, training of staff, so everyone has a role to play and produce what the federal government wants, which is a sovereign capability. In other words, we can build them here, we can man them here, and we can sustain them here so that you become independent. So that's VDA. If you move to the next slide. If you then sort of summarize the environment we're in, the skills, the status of companies, one thing's for certain, there's a sense of urgency. The relaxed capability to manage a company or an activity with persistent growth, predictable growth is gone and will be gone for some time. It's now, in some cases, the question of survival or a rapid pivot. And the business is at some stage either doing IT, connecting its business processes internally or its manufacturing processes, or they may be well advanced in the visibility and making database decisions. If you're really advanced, you're probably already in the predictability with some artificial intelligence lying over the top of your company. Hopefully, fairly soon, with AI, you'll move into the last one, which is that the systems and the intelligence of the data will adapt the system without you personally having to make every decision. So that's the journey that the manufacturers are on, from automated processing to adapting your process to the demand that artificial intelligence is already thinking about that may happen to you in the next week or in the next days or in the next months. And that's probably across all of the companies that we deal with in the submarine, in VDA, and in other companies that I'm associated with. I hope that's given you, I think that's it as far as slides. That's it. Yep, thank you. I hope that's given you a rapid fire, cross-section, melded, welded view of some of the things that's happening in the manufacturing space.
Thanks very much, Jurgen. Over to you, Tyler, to see if there were any questions that came in there.
Thanks, Jurgen. The first question, lots of talk about automation, but it's expensive. It takes a long time to change processes. It takes even longer to realize the benefits. How can I make it work for me in my time frame?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what sort of industry or where that sort of, how can I say, that sort of comment comes from. Every manufacturer is at some level of automation. And it was driven originally maybe as a cost saver. And that was the original factory automation focus. There was, how do I replace people with robots? And they all have a, excuse me, a return on investment period that companies calculate and live with. Is it complex? Yes, for some organisations it is. But there are lots of providers and suppliers in the marketplace that you can engage with and develop these automation journeys. If you don't, and that's the downside, if you don't, you will have difficulty participating in global supply chains. Global supply chains are digitally driven, transparent in process, in quality, in availability, and you need to be part of that.
Thanks, Jurgen. Another question has come through. I've been told that I can be trained, which is nice, but I'm also busy running a business. So upgrading my tech in automation would be great, but it is quite time consuming. So how do you find the time, resources and money to do that?
Look, it's one of the perennial issues in the SME space, where the company needs to look at the future of its survival, but because of financial constraints, because of personnel constraints, it doesn't have the immediate resources in the company. And I think this is where a number of these organisations, the VDA, there's one for manufacturing in Southeast Melbourne, there's places like Northlink, where you can draw on collaborative resources to help you. You know, there are programs from universities where you can have a PhD student for a period of time to work on specific projects in your company. Somebody was talking about transport before. I know one PhD student is working for one of the large transport companies, and he's looking at an application of AI for road management related to where they locate their refueling stations. There's a Melbourne guy who I've put in touch with some companies who is doing work on logistics chains. So, you know, my first answer would be engage with these sorts of organisations because they have access and knowledge and can lead you to support organisations or support people.
That's great, thank you. This question just come through. Could you speak more about how data and digital technologies are transforming traditional industries such as shipbuilding, particularly the use of virtual and augmented reality in the manufacturing process?
Yeah, look, that's very interesting. I about a year ago, on behalf of the Victorian government, I took a group of CEOs from Victoria from different manufacturing companies, including one of the prime shipbuilders, to America to look at digital shipbuilding and Industry 4.0 in ships. And we spoke to people like Huntington Ingalls, which is a 100-year-old company, biggest American shipbuilder. And they have a top-down strategy that says we will become digital. their issue is, how do you turn a 100-year-old company that's used to paper and a workforce in their late 50s to become digital and work off a tablet? So they have a huge digitalization program. The other end of the scale was quite interesting. We spoke and visited Austal, you know, that Perth-based company. They have a big facility in the US building ships for the US Navy. And their first comment was, oh, we're not a shipbuilder, we're a digital company. And we copied the automobile industry method of having assembly lines. At the end of our assembly line, we just happen to have ships popping out. That's the two extremes in digital shipbuilding. Victoria has the engineering expertise, the history to very significantly participate in digital shipbuilding for both the frigates, the submarines, the patrol vessels. So there's a huge resource here, even though the physical welding together will happen somewhere else. So it's a very interesting industry in transition. The cost saving in a submarine is in the order of 10 to 15% if you go digital.
Great question.
Does that answer your question?
Seems like it. Beautiful.
Okay.
Moving on, where can I get information on support, resources, or funding?
Oh, look, I think, was it Ben before that mentioned there are so many programs available for different parts of your business or different parts of your journey. My recommendation is, in the case of Victoria, there are some good entry points into the Victorian landscape as far as the government. What we do, for instance, in VDA, exactly for this reason, we publish regularly to all of the members updates on what's available in different programs, because we realise there's a bit of a difficulty if you're an SME to actually find your way and find all the opportunities on what you can participate in. So my recommendation is, first thing, Victorian Government website, if you don't know anyone there. Second, your industry association, which is always keen to foster collaboration and connection.
That's great. I think that's all the questions for now. Thanks for the answers there, Jurgen.
Okay.
Back over to you, Darryl.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Jurgen. Some really good themes coming out there as well. Some confronting figures at the start, but you know, again, these themes are coming out consistently of adaptability, resilience, and the ability to pivot and be agile, and the emergence of AI in that. So once again, Jurgen, thank you very much.
My pleasure.